Hi everyone, this is Adrianna. So here we have the original focus process. So we know it has the 5 phases here. So we have formulate, organize, contrast, unify, and simplify. And we know that within these are the 15 principles. So for the first one, for formulate, out of the 3 principles, which are message, audience, and sketches, I chose to do audience, which is described as determining what will influence the audience. So my first example is the bad example, and I chose this personality page. So I, for fun, like to study up on my personality and read about other personalities just so I can better learn how to interact with people and, talk to people. So this is one that I've come across, and even though obviously understanding the personality types is kind of a more adult thing to do, this website is just kind of childish with these weird buttons up here. So I don't think that it appeals to the audience very well. The next one, the good example, is Nike. So for this page, it's very simple and sleek, and I think that it appeals to the audience really well because the simpleness of it makes the actual clothing items and things like that stand out. It appeals to the athletes. It just shows these action photos and people, being active in the clothing. So I think that it really appeals to the audience well. So for the next concept, the organized concept, there are the 3 principles here: shape, proximity, and alignment. I chose shape, which is described as organizing the negative and positive space. So my first example is the bad example, and I chose Craigslist just because it is just so much information. I mean, there is obviously some white space here, but it's just not distributed well. There's just so many words here that, even though this website's obviously a really popular one, it's just really hard on the eyes and hard to go through. So my good example for this one is Campos Specialty Coffee. It's very modern and simple and sleek. I think it organizes the white space and the pictures and everything else very well. It's easy on the eyes, it's appealing, and I think it's a really pretty website, honestly. The colors are really good too. So going back to the third concept of contrast, there's asymmetry, value, and color. So I chose to do asymmetry. For a bad example, I have this website called Dream Moods. So I mean, I don't know if anyone else likes to look up their dreams to see what they mean, but I like doing that, and this is a website that I've come across, and it's just kind of crazy. Like, it's very asymmetrical because there's just so much random stuff going on, but it's too much to where it's really hard to understand and just look through. But the good example is actually one of my favorite websites ever. It's a website called Wix. So this website is where you can design your own websites, which is why I need to probably look here for a good example. So I chose this one. I didn't know whether to pick it for color or value just because it's such a good website, but I chose it for asymmetry because it has this awesome thing where it's very asymmetric because this thing just goes around, but it's so beautiful in how it does it, and it's just a great design. So the next one is Unify, and for this one we have repetition, rhythm, and Gestalt. I chose the Gestalt, which is unifying the parts to create a greater whole. So for the bad example, I chose this website. It's a boutique website. It's a new company, so I feel bad judging it, but it's called the Gypsy Chicken Boutique. And the reason I chose it is because, I mean, there's a lot of things kind of wrong with it, but what sticks out to me the most is just every single page on here is its own thing, and so it doesn't go very well with each other. It doesn't create a greater whole as the definition describes. Everything is just kind of its own thing, and it's The backgrounds are really distracting a lot of the time. Some of the backgrounds are moving. But I mean, it's cute, it's just, it doesn't go well together. I think there's just a little bit too much and it's too random. And so a good example of Gestalt would be on this website called The Cat's Meow. It's a vet in Fort Worth, actually. And although I don't think this is like the best website ever made or anything like that, it's still very, there's definitely improvements that could be made to it. At least it all goes together. The color scheme goes together. I mean, you see these little cat things, and they're kind of found all around the page. And that kind of withholds, or it goes along with basically every page too. Although the moving background isn't on every page, the color schemes and everything else and the little cat pictures, they do go around on each page. And the font stays the same. So I mean, it all goes together to at least create that unity. So for the last concept, we have Simplify, which has evaluation, elimination, and communication. So for this one, I'm going to talk about elimination, which is just to remove clutter and make things more simple and have better clarity. So I used the example, the first one is a bad example of this website that I actually shop from pretty often because it's really cheap, but it's called Romwe. So I mean, it's not horrible, but it's just a lot on the page. I mean, the colors are pretty consistent, but it's a little bit overwhelming to me personally. I think it's just trying to show off a little too much all at once, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. So an example that I chose as a good one is for Adobe. So obviously they have a lot that they could show on this website to show off, and just like Romwe wanted to show off what they had, Adobe can do the same, but they chose to keep it simple and it's not overwhelming. They removed the clutter to make it very easy on the eyes and to make it simple and clarify what their message is and what they want to show to the audience itself. So those are my examples, and I think that's it. Thank you for watching.